Hello, everyone. Welcome back to MBTV. This is Damon. I have a very special guest with us today. Melicious from YouTube, very fan favorite, popular. She does a lot of different videos, MBTI, rants, personal talks, thoughts, theories, and a lot of cool pictures in her videos as well. She always adds little funny things that make me laugh, but it actually gets the point across really well. I remember the first video I watched of hers, which was ENTJs and ENTP relationships, and it was like the Lion King picture. And that's kind of embedded in my head when I think of her channel. But she's got a lot of great content, and today's topic is going to be about attachment styles. Some of you who have followed this channel, I've mentioned these several times. We're going to go into this. She has done a lot of studying on this in herself. I've looked at a little bit of some of her writing related to this as well. So it's very interesting to see her perspective, and I'm very thankful for her sharing. And of course, we have Daniel off in the corner, don't know where he is, and Trey joining us as well. So
what's up?
That being said, how do you can you kind of share your story with attachment styles in general, your YouTube, and then we'll go into attachment styles. So we'll start with your YouTube channel, kind of what made you want to be a content creator, then going into attachment styles from there.
Me?
Yes.
What made me want to be a content creator? I was just whining about life, pretty much. I didn't mean to create one. I just kind of used it for my, just sending videos to friends that were too long to send by phone. But I've been into MBTI for probably 6 years, maybe longer than that. And discovering MBTI was like the clouds parting and the angels singing for me, because I have always felt like such a weirdo in life. And I guess I just felt like I had the roadmap to my own problems when I found it, but also things that I was good at. So MBTI helped me to accept myself so much, and then I instantly was just like, okay, that's boring, let's move on to everyone else. So and I think I've said that about 1,000,000 times, but I was right in the middle of having quite a few problems, and it felt like it was related to my personality type, because it's kind of tough being an ENTP chick and having a mind that works a lot like a man's. And I was in corporate America, and I had just kind of had it after quite a lot, like a decade, I think. So I think I saw Mary Azol. I saw her video and I loved it. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I don't.
Anybody seen it? No, because you guys are ENTJs. Of course you guys didn't see it. But she's got this video where she talks about how hard it is being an ENTP, and I felt so much better. And there were hardly any videos about ENTPs. I found maybe one other one. So I just thought, you know what, I'm having a horrible night, so I'm just going to get on and talk about what it's been like for me. And that's kind of how it started.
Perfect. So just to give you an update, Trey has professed he prefers INFJ and MBTI.
You're an INFJ?
Yes.
When did that happen?
That happened like my whole life. But
what?
He's been an INFJ his whole life.
Okay,
I thought I was ENTJ for a while. And then seeing
from ENTJ to INFJ?
Yeah, and then I saw Damon in person, and then like the differences just like kind of came out. And I started to realize that I was an ENTJ.
Whoa, my mind is blown. Okay, so I'm behind on a lot of things.
It's all right. It's all right. Trey's a unicorn. He's one of those special snowflakes.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah. So
now I have way more questions. You should have told me that.
We can get into those, but I want to definitely get our audience a little bit of content here. So let's dive into the the attachment styles. I will be reviewing comments posted by our viewers right now. So let's talk about your journey with attachment styles, and then we'll go from there.
My journey with attachment styles. Okay. Oh, hang on. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. My journey with attachment styles started with this book. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Make Up, Don't Break Up. This has a horrible title for a great book because it sounds really cheesy. And it doesn't really reveal all the content that is in this amazing book. Because, okay, well, first of all, I bought this because I kept breaking up with a boyfriend that I had. And you know, then we would break up, and then I would miss him, and then we would get back together, and then I would feel suffocated, and I would break, you know, so it was this terrible cycle that just kept happening over and over again. So I was walking through Borders one day, and I was in the relationship section, and I was like, what is wrong with me? So I saw this title, and I thought, that's exactly what I've been trying to accomplish. You know, like, should I make up? Should I break up? Well, it looks like Oprah recommends it, so it's got to be good. So I bought it, and then I didn't read it hardly at all. I think I read a few pages, and then I just like tossed it. And then that relationship eventually ended. I think maybe I just wasn't in the point of my life where I was ready to invest myself in it. So I discovered it again when I was in a different relationship and a different place in my life. And I call it the unintentional journey to the center of myself. But I was trying to figure out, all right, why do I act this way? What is going on? You know, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the reason I have these patterns in my relationships. And so I found this book kind of on accident, and I started reading it, and I was like, oh my gosh. It was so amazing. And it also forces you to look in the mirror in a huge way, because the first couple pages basically inform you that, okay, have you had issues in relationships in the past? Yeah, well, have you ever looked in the mirror? You know, have you ever looked at yourself? If you keep having issues in relationships, especially if they are similar, like relationships ending in certain ways, or you're drawn to certain traits in people, or you find yourself in similar patterns, well, the problem might be yours. And I never thought about that before. And so this book does a great job of explaining how childhood comes into play. And it's called a lot of different things. I didn't know that she doesn't call it attachment theory, but she's got her own language, but she basically calls it your childhood script. And whatever you learned as a child, whatever your interaction was, usually with your maternal figure, but it can also be with your parental or both. In the first few years, even like your first 3 years, if you don't get a first good 3 years, then you're kind of screwed. But you carry it into your adulthood a lot of the time, good or bad. So, yeah, that blew me away, and it gave me a lot of answers. It was actually awful, because I had to realize how much of the things that I was doing wrong myself. But yeah, the script, that's what I was trying to say. So whatever dynamic you become familiar with and that is comfortable to you in your childhood, even if it's a negative dynamic, you will seek it out in your adult life a lot of the time. So if it's something that is secure, if you learned to attach securely to your mother a lot of the time, but often your father too, then you will often seek out that kind of dynamic when you're an adult. But if you didn't, if it's an insecure attachment of any kind, or a fearful or anxious, dismissive, if there was something like that going on, then you go and look for it, and it's ridiculous. You know, you wouldn't think that you would. You would think, well, I'm not going to have a relationship like that, or I'm not going to, you know, but you have this little antenna in you that just goes dee, 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 and it finds those things. So, and it's true in a lot of ways. You know, it takes some examining to realize it. There's a plane going overhead. Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear the
okay,
plane.
well, I can be done talking now. I think I just talked too much.
No, that was perfect. That's exactly what the information that I wanted to start off with. It's interesting that you mentioned one of the most powerful questions I think that we have in our repertoire, which is, what is wrong with me? And depending on how we use that, it's led us into these self-discovery journeys, which have been so revealing for me. That was the question that led me into MBTI. It was the question that led me into Enneagram, Socionics. Everything is, what is wrong with me? And that continues a lot of the journey into a lot of self-discovery as well. So it's interesting that you mentioned that particular thing went through your mind and led you into this discovery, and you know, the MBTI world, and now the attachment theory. So before we move on, I do want to clarify kind of that you mentioned a fearful, dismissive, anxious. Could you distinguish for our audience what the difference between those attachment styles and then a secure attachment style is, which is supposedly the healthiest one? Just distinguish the difference between the other three.
Do you have the definitions like fresh? I haven't done any reading on this in a while. Do you have the definitions in your mind? If not, I can wing it.
Yeah, just wing it.
Just wing it. Okay, so secure attachment I already talked about, and I think I've read things that say it's about 50% of the population, but I'm not sure. And that seems awfully, if you ask me, okay, for people I've met, I think that seems a little high. But I think I did read something somewhere that said the secure attachment style is actually decreasing in the population, which kind of makes sense if you think about society and the way society's changed a lot, where the family unit would often stay together maybe in the 50s, 60s, and then that started to change a lot. So I think as a family unit would change, it makes sense that attachment styles would change the proportion. So secure is the one where your needs were met by your primary caregiver. If you cried, you know, someone was always there. Someone made you feel safe, but they also were able to let you go. Like as you started to walk and things like that, you were able to leave and then come back and return to that safe feeling. You weren't made to feel guilty, you know, if you walked away. You weren't punished when you came back, things like that. So basically your parent was a safe base for you. But even in, like, this is instantly though, not even when you're walking, like practically as soon as you're born, when babies start recognizing faces, as long as there's like a welcoming face on the other end, as long as someone, as long as the baby feels like their needs are being met, that's when like the attachment starts. And so even if like in the first month, as soon as a baby's aware, I think if they start to consistently feel like their needs aren't being met, then these issues can happen right then. It's kind of insane, really. But okay, so secure, someone that's securely attached would then grow up and seek that out in a relationship. They would be able to not take things personally, I guess. They would be able to feel stable with another person, feel comfortable with another person, and comfortable depending on another person, but able to deal with conflict. Also, as a couple, they would feel good enough in themselves that they wouldn't take every little thing personally, I suppose. And they would know how to turn to each other in hard times, because a lot of people don't like to rely on people, you know, and I was like that my whole life. I still am kind of like that. But someone that's securely attached usually knows how to turn to someone else for comfort, and also give comfort if their partner is struggling in some way. I feel like I'm rambling.
No, actually, you're delivering it from exactly what we need to hear from your perspective. It's not rambling. It's very rambling.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
This is your time to shine right now. So I'm trying to minimize how much we talk, and we want to hear you. So that's why we're here.
I know. That's why I'm like, didn't you brush up? Because I was going to brush up on my definitions today and I haven't, so this is just kind of like knocking it out of my dome. Right. All right, so then you have, oh, but I do have my chart. Here's the chart. Can you see it? Yes. Does that help at all?
I can see it.
Can anyone see that? So this kind of gives you the spectrum. There's my little dot in the secure side, which is a huge shock to me because I took this 2 years ago. It's been hanging on my wall right there because I was so proud of myself. I was like, oh, and I haven't taken it down because I'm pretty sure for most of my life, I was on the opposite spectrum. So these unintentional journeys, they can work. That's actually called something. It's called earned secure attachment. So if you have ever looked into attachment theory, and come out with something that you didn't like so much, but it explained a lot, then rest assured that it can change, because I am positive that I was down here sometime, or maybe even off the chart. So the next one would be, I think, anxious attachment. And that is one where the parent was unpredictable, I believe. So if their parent responded in a positive way and showed up, sometimes when the baby needed the mother or whoever it was, then they feel secure sometimes. But sometimes nobody shows up, or sometimes they get scared, or if it was just an inconsistent interacting, then they grow up feeling like they never know what to expect. So they're, I guess, constantly on guard. They're always scanning for danger. And in their relationships, this often translates as the exact same thing, as always just being clingy, kind of, wanting to be together a lot of the time, really pushing for togetherness, wanting to know where someone is all the time, wanting to be in constant communication. You know, it's somebody that kind of needs like a tether. They need a tether to their partner. They need to like be giving it a tug all the time just to make sure they're at the other end and they haven't gone too far. And they're also the ones that are more likely to suspect that somebody might cheat. You know, if you want to go out of town, well, like, why aren't you going to take me? Or why do you always go out with your friends? Or, you know, all those things that they're likely to take their laser beam of attention and just focus it on their partner. So it's probably nitpicky. I would say another thing is probably nitpicky. Does that sound right? What?
I have a question for you now.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so we have this anxious attachment style, and would this particularly person be identified with the companionship of the other person, as in, who am I without this person? Do you feel that there's a cross connection there at all?
Probably. You mean like they kind of like the person becomes part of their identity? Okay, yes. I think I see what. So you mean codependent?
In a way, yes, but almost to the point where it's my identity. Like, I am. You are the other part of me, and so if you are distant, then I feel anxious because I am fearful of losing who I am.
Yeah, maybe so, but I think I've seen with anxious attachers, like, it's not so much sometimes who the person is, like they actually make their identity about the other person, specifically the other person, but because if something happens, they can move on and find another one, and then that person, because, you know, it's not like, oh, okay, I found the love of my life so much, and it's just that this person fulfills that need for them, you know, and if it goes south, then they will move on to the next one, and then that person fulfills that need for them. So, I mean, that's an interesting question. I really don't know. What do you think?
I think it's probably very correlated, at least with this attachment style. I don't know enough about attachment styles to really contribute, but it's interesting to see that kind of identification, because a lot of the stuff that we post here on our channel is about ego, identity, and association. And it doesn't have to be, it's usually a concept of a person versus like the person who always has to be in a relationship, right? The person who always has to have somebody, instead of saying, you know what, I'm secure where I'm at right now, and I don't really need to have somebody. It'd be a nice luxury, it'd be fun, whatever, you know, it can add definitely elements to my life that I don't have right now, but I don't lose my identity in this aspect, versus the person who may have this anxious attachment style. So what we'll do is we'll look at the other two attachment styles and see how it affects the ego directly. But before we proceed, Daniel, Trey, any questions about this attachment style or secure attachment?
I don't know how long this channel like this has been going on for, because I popped in, but like I'm really liking this because this is bringing up a lot of ideas, a lot of observations I've made, you know, throughout my life and viewing, you know, couples, and I find it really cool stuff that I see like on a day-to-day. I actually just I was talking to some people that I used to be friends with, and they were telling me about another couple that just was exactly that. There are two people who are like almost codependent to the point of like identity welding, right? Like they became each other very secure. Like they became too secure. They based each other, like they needed each other's security from one another, and they just exploded, and now they're single. And it's like, it's crazy because now they were together for so long, but they were one of those couples that went, you know, they went isolationist for about 4 years. Nobody knew where they went. Like they just like totally went off the grid, just needed each other, and now they're done, you know?
That's fascinating.
So, yeah, it's like everything you're talking about, I find fascinating too. All these particular situations, it makes sense. Everything you're saying makes sense according to what I've seen.
I bet. So to me, that would almost seem like it's two preoccupied, two anxious attachments finding each other, you know?
Yeah. I see so much of that. I don't know why. Really?
That's fascinating. Because usually what happens is that I think maybe the 4 years, I think that's longer than usual. Because usually what happens is if anxious and anxious get together, then eventually it's like, not even eventually, I think it just usually erupts way too fast. So the 4 years thing, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, plus a close friend of mine is actually in a relationship with somebody who has, I believe, the security one, where they just need to be in constant communication. You know, she calls him and is immediately like, what are you doing? Where are you? Like, he is whipped now, and I use the word whipped in the very extreme sense, to where he calls her up after his shift to tell her that he's off work now and that he's going home. He's going to bed. I'll call you when I get home, right? If you're up, I'll call you, So it's like this thirst for validation, and it's like, it's so weird to watch the unhealthiness of it. You know what I mean?
I don't even know if it's validation. I think it might be security.
I think it's just security, yeah, and like getting the validation of.
So wait, but he's okay with that?
He doesn't know. He's less aware of these things than we are.
So he doesn't really even mind.
He doesn't even know that it's an issue yet.
That's actually okay. So that's cool almost, because that guy quite possibly is a securely attached individual, and if he doesn't even mind it, that because a securely attached individuals usually also, they can put others' needs ahead of theirs easier, because they're not always focused on, oh gosh, what's going to happen to me. Somebody was fulfilling their needs all the time, so they grow up and learn how to do that for others. But somebody who didn't have their needs fulfilled is constantly thinking like, oh, I don't know when I'm going to get my needs fulfilled next, or maybe I won't at all. So the fact that he's like rolling with it, that's there's something called earned attachment. I think I actually just said that, but that's the one way. That's one of the only ways, because I also think that you can do it just by learning about it and then some trial and error. But she has a good chance of becoming, of obtaining her earned secure attachment degree from him. So he's awesome. And that's great. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I like to hear that. I like to hear that it's cool with him.
Yeah, no.
All right, so guys, we got to make sure we cover the other two. We'll go back to this, but we got to make sure we go to the other two for the audience. So would you mind explaining the other two attachment styles, or starting with one of them, and then we can stop and take a break there and move on?
Yes. So then the other one, it's sad. Everybody argues about, just like with MBTI, some people say there's 3, some people say there's 4. Everything calls them other things. But this one, I think it's dismissing is one, and fearful avoidant is the other. So dismissing it would be where the kid felt that their needs were not important. They were not the priority. They didn't get fulfilled a lot of the time. So that kid grows up, and he keeps this message in his mind that, okay, no one's going to take care of me, so I have to take care of myself. I have to fulfill my own needs. And also, I don't need anyone, and I can't depend on anyone anyway, basically. So that person grows up and becomes very detached from the world a lot of the time, detached from relationships. Like, they can be the loner. What?
Nah, I beat Damon to his own thoughts. That's what happened.
Yeah, he got me. I saw his face, and I was like, oh, Daniel's already labeling me.
Well, does any of this sound like how you grew up?
When I did the attachment styles test, several of them, I got dismissive.
Really?
As my attachment style, yeah. And so I saw Daniel labeling me over there. He was judging. And so with his premature ENFP judgments that I called him out on in New York, yeah, so he was over there, down there, rubbing his beard and judging pretty hard about my attachment style. So maybe
it's not a judgment. Maybe it's just an observation.
It's just an observation.
Everything's true. Just remember that.
It's just everything is true. Yeah.
So okay.
Can I ask you how you feel about, or should I wait with my questions and just go through the last?
Go ahead. We can have a conversation. Let's go.
So how did you grow up then? Like, really, do you feel like any of that, what I said about growing up, did anything? Yeah.
100%. Right, spot on. Yeah. Yeah. So the whole need of taking care of myself, I still actually don't confide in anybody as far as my own pain. It takes a lot for me to reach out to somebody if I'm dealing with something. So it is you depend on yourself or die. That's it. There is no alternative in that. And it's something I'm working through, because it's not a healthy perspective necessarily, but it served me in my youth when you didn't have anybody else there to really help, pick you up or do it. You have to kind of learn how to do it yourself. And so all throughout my youth, it was like, I'm going to teach myself this. So I went and taught myself everything, and I kind of had to raise myself and failed. Children don't do well raising themselves. So you know, and there was a lot of falling on my face when I got older due to the habits that I built when I was younger. But yeah, it definitely fits. And so the observation that Daniel made, aka the judgment that he made was down there, was definitely spot on. And Trey was thinking the same thing. They both know me to the extent, and obviously I do agree with that. And my scores as far as attachment styles go always fall in the dismissive area.
I want to know what mine is. Is there a link where I can take a test? Is there like
just type it in Google. You'll find a whole bunch of different ones about attachment styles, and you'll see a general, like take 2 or 3 of them and kind of see your general pattern associated with that.
I really like this one.
Which one?
I think it's called you could look up the, I don't know if this is what it's called. I never wrote down it's called the Revised ECR-R. I'll see if I can find it.
ECR-R.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. It says the questionnaire came from experience in close relationships, revised ECR-R. And then it says Fraley, Fraley, Brennan, and Waller. I don't know. I don't think that's how I found this, but it might come up if you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on yourpersonality.net, maybe.
Could be. So you guys that are audience, see if you can look around, find that one, revised ECR-R, yourpersonality.net. Maybe it's on there. If anybody finds
I think it is on, yeah.
Comments. Let us know which one it is. It has the graph on there and all that. So
yeah, it's so awesome. This graph is amazing because it shows you how high and low you are. Like right up here, it says low avoidance here. It says high anxiety here, high avoidance here, low anxiety here, and then it plots you. And so I think that's right for me too. But I love things like that. Do you guys love things like that?
I do. That's why I love step 2, because step 2 has a lot of graphs with MBTI.
Oh,
yeah.
Metrics.
What's step 2?
I love metrics.
And then analytics, metrics, comparison analysis, all that stuff is really, really helpful. There was one personality, this is a little off topic, but there was one personality assessment I did way back in the day. It's called the Harrison. And it shows your personality in a work performance way. And it had the coolest graphs, like how you operate under stress, how you operate normally, how you operate under pressure. And it had all types, like 30 different aspects of your personality being monitored in the work environment. And I loved that particular assessment because it was pretty spot on. I think I've changed a lot since then when I took it, but I have it around there somewhere. It's a great tool. So
have you gone to yourmorals.org?
I haven't, but I will.
Oh gosh, don't do it. You're gonna be doing tests for days.
Oh, the self-discovery of my own morals.
It's fascinating because they have new ones and they actually use your answers for research. So then on top of it, you're like, I'm not even doing this just for myself. Like people are going to use this for stuff. So then you're like, oh, I should just keep doing this because it's helping somebody. So that's how you kind of like rationalize you're like doing 27 tests.
Yeah. So dismissive. Do you need to add anything to that? What we were going on?
I don't know. I think, do you need to add anything to it?
Well, I mean, I think our audience who have seen our other videos obviously know a lot about the aspect in which I've been that way. There was a video I posted about loneliness, I don't know, a month ago or so, maybe a little less, but that talks a lot about my dismissive position in attachment style. That video, I guess it was a pretty popular video on the channel. And so it was a really heartfelt video that I released. And it does talk about the attachment style that I dealt with as a child and kind of what I set for myself and some of the responsibility that I've taken. I think one of the things that I want to add, and this is not necessarily related to the theory or even theoretically tied in with it, but was the self-blame aspect of, you know, if you fail or if you fall or if you sabotage a relationship or whatever, it's all your fault. Take responsibility for everything. The movie caricature of this is like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting, where he blamed himself for everything that happened to him. And if you see the parallel in that, you can see kind of the same way in which I was very dismissive in a very common aspect like that. You do it yourself, everything needs to be done, and dismissive of everything else that happened in his life. So there's a little bit of parallels there as well. And I think that has a lot to do with that attachment style as well, is taking responsibility for too much, even when it's outside of your control. It's easy to tell someone, hey, I think it's your fault. But when you're going back and looking at yourself, you actually do have a sense that it is still all your fault, no matter what. Even if you think it's this person that did it on a kind of a conscious level, somewhere in your gut, you just know it's still your fault. And regardless if that is true or not, that's the way you feel. And that's very much as real as what actually reality is to someone who's feeling a certain way.
So are you saying that if a relationship or maybe a past relationship deteriorated, you took all of that responsibility on yourself, or just anything in life fails?
Everything. Yeah, relationship, everything, no matter what happened. Like even the way that my parents raised me somehow was my fault. And as I've moved forward, I've let go of a lot of those aspects, and let go of those notions. But part of that was in the process of, that whole, I've got to fight the world and I've got to learn and I've got to do it. And it's all me. No, can't depend on anyone. It's me, me, me. The only way to kind of really truly have that mindset is to take full responsibility and think that everything actually is in your control, which associates this with the control attachment. So the attachment to control, which is a little bit outside of the attachment style paradigm that we're looking at right now, but there's a few other psychological attachments, control, deprivation, and rejection attachments, which obviously I've mentioned a few times on this channel as well when we talk about NLP. And but that is associated with the same thing that you're talking about in the dismissive aspect, what I believe anyway, my own observation, which is taking that full responsibility makes you feel like you are the one that's the one that determines your fate. And if you do something wrong, then ultimately there was that issue. So yeah, I mean, we got a question here. Okay, so the question, Trey, is this a serious question? Or Trey?
Yes.
Okay, is the question toward?
Yeah, it was based on what you were saying. Someone was asking if you thought that something was wrong with you.
Oh yeah, I always thought something was wrong with me. I mean, I thought that, my whole life there was something wrong with me. I always felt alien or out of place or something. Even though people looked up to me, I never really took much pride in that. I never was like, yeah, I'm the boss, I'm the leader. I mean, people naturally just shoved me in leadership positions. And I guess they trusted me more than even I trusted myself. I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'll take command and I'll do what I need to do to get the job done. But I always thought something was wrong with me. Like, you appoint somebody, I guess they appointed me because they thought I was intelligent. I don't know what it was. Never asked, never found out. But at the time, that never changed. And even today, I still have difficulty finding a common ground with a lot of people as far as that goes. But yeah, so when it comes to that dismissive style, I would assume that this is very common with a lot of people. So if you combine the aspect of, Socionics with MBTI, with Enneagram, with this attachment style, with the NLP, psychological attachment styles, you start getting a more full character profile of how my life actually was. Right? So the more systems that we learn, we don't necessarily have to mesh and integrate them all, but the more systems that we learn, the more you get a full profile of who you really are as far as what you've been through, how you've developed in a certain way from childhood to your psychological perspective, to your information metabolism, to your ego needs and ego desires. So this is what makes these different personality systems really, really engaging and fun to kind of play around with. So questions? Yeah,
it adds you just get another dimension every time you stumble on something, basically. But for me, it's like, oh, it's another answer. Oh, I have to challenge you a little bit here because even though you scored in dismissing, what you said makes me wonder if that is accurate, because often the dismissive personality style is, or attachment style is one that has a high opinion of the self, low opinion of others. So that, because when they were little, when they were dismissed, they kind of had to turn inward and be their own booster upper as well. So they end up kind of telling themselves, you're awesome, no one else can be trusted. And you don't sound like that. You sound far too humble to be that kind of a personality or that kind of an attachment style. You sound more like you're in, just from what you just said, in the fearful avoidant. And that is fascinating to me because another ENTJ I know is a fearful avoidant. And he also is, I have to do everything. I have to take on the world. I've got to do it all myself. And at the same time, I don't understand, like, it's pretty much everything is always his fault. Like if a relationship is broken down, it's his fault. I think he sees like his dad leaving as his fault. And everything's always his fault, but still he's never going to reach out. He's never going to ask for help with anything. Yes.
I don't know. Keep going.
Oh, I thought you were saying. So, I'm like, yes.
Okay, so I'm not necessarily set on an attachment style. As far as I understand it, I don't think that I ever had struggle with self-esteem per se. I always knew that I wanted to be better than where I was, but I never was like, oh, I'm a horrible person. Never did that. I always took full responsibility. So self-esteem was never an issue. In fact, when I was younger, I was a little too on the self-esteem side. My brother, He always called me, "You're the most egotistical, self-centered person I know. You think you're better than everyone." So there's two sides of the coin, though. It's like there's a projection.
Older brother or younger brother?
Older.
Your older brother said that to you?
Oh yeah, yeah. So there's a projection that's happening, and a lot of the times we can look at the attachment theory on the surface and kind of see the same symptoms as far as anything goes. We can look at the surface and go, here are the same symptoms that we see, right? This person is dismissive. This person is, but I wouldn't put myself in a fearful category in general because I'm not afraid of the failure. I take responsibility for the failure and go, hey, this is my issue. This is what it is. I don't think it's the fear that I deal with per se. Now, as I've gotten older, I've learned to handle a lot of this, taking responsibility and humble myself and recognize how much I actually don't know. But when I was younger, it was like I thought I knew more than everyone. So
wow.
there's been a transitional phase in my life, which people don't see now because I've been studying myself for the last 10, 12 years, like in heavy amounts and heavy doses. So there was this side of me that was like, I know all when I was younger, and my brother hated me for it. And then there was a transitional period, which was I know nothing. The only thing I know is that I don't know was my whole perspective. And that's my perspective now. So when I was younger, I didn't read much. I read, like, as a young kid, I read a lot. Then I stopped reading because I thought I knew everything. And that lasted a long time. And then as I got older again, it was like, I don't know anything. I better read. So I got obsessed with reading books to a point where now it's kind of vacillated. And like you said, you can move attachment styles. So we don't know what period of my life was I in the fearful stage, dismissive stage. But I can tell you, as I test now, I fall in the dismissive. I'm not saying the tests are accurate, of course, but I would say that I definitely fall in that category as far as the way you've described it. Mm-hmm. And but let's hear the fearful side. Maybe I can find a little more resonance with that. Like I said, I'm pretty open-minded. I'm not settled on any particular type, but there was a period of my life where I was very, very self-prideful to the point where it was obnoxious. And I don't think I've ever really struggled with self-esteem, like, oh, I'm horrible. Oh, I'm a terrible person. I never really struggled with that. I don't even relate to that aspect. So I don't know if that is a fearful side or not, but you mentioned that I seem too humble. It's because I've developed enough to know how much I don't know. So I've calmed myself a lot in that regard, but I still deal with a lot. I don't know. I couldn't quite tell you because, like I said, I don't really know enough about attachment styles to settle and say, yes, that's what I am. So I'm open-minded about it, but I'd like to hear the last one. So let's go through that and let's see if there's any resonance there.
Well, a fearful avoidant, in the situation that you were talking about, a fearful avoidant a lot of the time isn't going to be thinking, I'm afraid of this relationship, so I'm going to run from it or something. That's not what the person's thinking. What the person is doing a lot of the time is self-destructing the shit out of it, but not consciously. They are finding ways to make a relationship fail if it gets too close. So if you're like, this is getting, like, maybe they want too much of your time, or maybe they're learning things about you or something like that. Because the fearful avoidant is, did you just go somewhere?
He's listening. He usually. Yeah.
Where did he go? Are you there?
Yeah.
That was crazy. I was like talking to the little logo. Okay, wait, let me unclick this. Okay, but why do you keep doing that to me?
I'm sorry. I gotta troll a little bit. ENTP pride right here.
I was late, so you can do that. Obviously, yeah. I was late. So a fearful avoidant is like I'm trying to think of the word and I can't really think of, like, an oxymoron. What's another word for oxymoron? Anyone?
Contradiction.
Yeah, that's even better. No, well, it's like two people in one, kind of, because the fearful avoidant wants the relationship, where the dismissive doesn't necessarily even want it. And the dismissive is just like, I'm better off, I'm fine. They're not longing on the inside to be with someone. And a lot of the time, I was going to say this, I'll say it now. The fearful and the dismissive and the anxious get together. And a lot of the time, that's because that's what their mom and dad was like, So the anxious is always like, oh, pay attention to me, which the dismissive doesn't want to do, you know, because they've learned that they don't need the anxious one. So it's always like a cat and mouse chase, you know. So this one's always chasing after this one and never getting their needs met fully, you know. And then this one's always just having their space and time and everything like invaded by the anxious one. And neither one of them is particularly happy in the relationship. Like, this is the best, this is so healthy. But a lot of these relationships, they find each other and they end up staying together forever, just like with this going back and forth like little circle, because that's what they're used to a lot of the time, you know. So even though this one's not happy, he's never there, he always, you know, he doesn't need me, blah 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 blah, it's still just like this comfortable feeling. So I think that's one of the, besides the secure, it's the second most common pairing that you're going to find, and they will stay like that forever. It's the couple that's like maybe always like, you know what I mean, but that's how they love each other, you know. That's just what means love to them, I guess, at that point in their lives.
Are that couple.
What's that?
My grandparents are that couple. I don't know how they're together. It doesn't make any sense. They like hate each other. It's so weird. I don't get it. They're like they'll argue all day. And I'm like, how old are you guys? Like, how are you guys still together? Like, I just don't get it. Like, what's motivating you to stay? Like, I don't even understand. Like, it's like, for me, that would be torture. Like, the rest of my life, just
the bickering.
Yeah, like they're both like, oh, you always do this and you always do that, and like they're always like screaming at each other and stuff. And I'm like, what?
Like, they're actually screaming?
Like, okay, well, my grandpa can't hear, so like, so yeah, they are.
Was that a joke on me, Trey?
No, but you are a grandpa.
What?
Hey guys.
Okay, so
Guys.
What?
What?
I took a quiz. I got preoccupied. So carry on.
All right, so Daniel's preoccupied. So Daniel,
so he's over here.
Yeah.
So you're in the high anxiety, low avoidance ish.
Yeah.
That's your spectrum.
It says according to your questionnaire, your attachment related anxiety score is 4.78 from a 1 low to a 7 high, and your related avoidance score is 2.1 on a scale from 1 low to 7 high.
So you're 4 up and then you're 2 over. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, wait, you're 4 up and 2 over, or 4 over and 2 up?
4 up and 2 over.
4 up. Okay, so you're more avoidant than anxious.
Yeah, I guess.
No, less avoidant than anxious.
Yeah, low avoidance. Yeah, low avoidance, and then yeah.
Okay. So are you in relationships a lot?
Not anymore.
Okay. Were you at one time?
Like, well, I was always in a relationship until I was 22, and then I've been single for 2 years.
Okay. I feel like that makes sense.
Yeah. So up until a point, I just wanted to be by myself. So, yeah.
So I'm gonna add this element. Now that you've described the fearful, I'm gonna say.
Oh, I didn't yet.
Oh, I thought you already did.
I know I've got more to go, but I do want to hear what you have to say.
I've been waiting for it.
Waiting for me? Trey?
No, I'm waiting for the description of fearful.
Okay, let's let her finish. Let me continue my analysis.
Oh, you want me to finish? Okay. So that was going back to the dismissive and anxious or preoccupied. They'll do that whole thing, right? And then the fearful avoidant. The fearful avoidant has an inner conflict going on all the time, because they, like I said, unlike the dismissive, they do want to be in a relationship. And if they are not in one, then they are usually looking for one, but not like, oh, I need to be with someone. But there's like a sense of longing in them, and they want the connection, but they don't feel like they can trust it. Like, if they get it, they don't know what to do with it a lot of the time. And fearful avoidance, when they grew up, I think when fearful avoidance, I can't remember, I'll have to look it up in a second, but I think that when they went to someone for comfort, they were scared sometimes, or because where dismissives might like shove somebody away, I think sometimes a fearful avoidant, sometimes they were welcome, but other times they were scared. I'm not positive. We'll come back to that one. So they kind of grow up with like this wanting connection, but being afraid of connection at the same time and not trusting it. And often the fearful avoidant, where the dismissive has a high opinion of self, low opinion of others, which is actually kind of a false thing. It's just something they've had to build up. The fearful has a low opinion of self and low opinion of others. So they don't think that they're worthy of love sometimes, or all the time. And they also don't think other people will be able to give that to them. So, but they have a yearning for closeness. They want the connection. They had the connection when they were little, but it wasn't a stable connection. So if they don't recognize it, and they're the hardest ones a lot of the time to, because they're jumpy. They'll jump in and out of things. And I think that's how I used to be. I think I was a fearful avoidant, and then I morphed into an anxious preoccupied when I was going through this book, because then I overcorrected. So where at one time, if I didn't like how something was going, I'd be like, whatever, I don't need it, you know. And it was always somebody else's fault. Then I made everything all my fault, because I was like, oh, look at all these things I'm doing wrong. But I was in a relationship where, like, I didn't ask him to read this book. If you do read this book and you have a relationship, make sure that you're both going through it, because while it was a really good lesson for me to do all the changing, it didn't work out for the relationship, because I was the only one like, oh, this must be my fault. I've got to change this. I've got to change that. But it was kind of good for me, because I kind of got walked all over a little bit, and I kind of needed that. So that was my journey. But I think I used to be fearful, avoidant, because I don't know.
I'm definitely fearful avoidant.
You think that's what you are?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think there are more and more fearful avoidants out there. I feel like I've met a lot of fearful avoidants, or at least I find them.
Yeah, I don't know, because it makes sense for me, because I do long for a connection, and then but I don't actively seek it out necessarily, like, oh, I need it. But then, like, I find somebody and I'm like, I don't necessarily know what to do with this person. So then I'm like, I just kind of put them in this category of like undefined, and then usually just slip away. Undefined, and then I slip away. Like, I just kind of, I put them in this like zero out. They're just zeroed out completely, and then I'm just like, I'm looking at it like, I don't know what to do with you, and then I just kind of move out and don't talk to them much anymore.
That sounds totally right.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Because the fearful avoidant wants closeness, but closeness makes them uncomfortable and anxious, you know, because you don't want to let somebody in that close. You're not used to having somebody in that close. Like, sometimes for a little while it's fun, but then when you think, okay, now what comes next? And what comes next? And what comes next? And then you're just like, oh, I'm better on my own. And a lot of the time a fearful avoidant will also think, well, I should be, it's better for me to be on my own. Maybe I don't deserve it. Or maybe, you know, well, a fearful avoidant is very good at rationalizing it to themselves, because where dismissive is like, whatever, I don't need somebody. And then they just move along with their life, and they could be single for a long time. The fearful avoidant is constantly kind of running a script to themselves about why they're single. You know, they're like, oh, this is why. It's because I have so many things to do. It's because I've got to get my 3rd degree. It's because I've got to go, you know, climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and then I have to do, you know, like, if they're not in it, they want to be in a relationship, but they can
but I
also
have to go through change first before it's.
You have to what?
I said, but you have to go through change first before it's possible. You know, it's interesting. I'm looking at this. I think I actually, I think I'm primarily fearful, but I think I go to dismissive quite a bit, because I switch between having high opinion of myself and not having a high opinion of myself. And so I do that quite a bit, but then with everybody else, I just, for the most part, for the most of the population, I don't think very much about them. So, I mean, I hold myself to a high standard, but then sometimes I kind of look around me and I do a comparison instead of looking at the standard alone. I run a comparison between me and other people, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, well, I'm closer to that standard than they are, so I'm better, you know. And so there's a point where I have high opinion of myself, and then there's like this other point where I find myself not even like still falling short, being like, yeah, you know what, I'm not that great. So I do.
You have a fluctuating sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
And it depends on your external, what you're measuring yourself against. That's a very FE thing to do. FE is always looking around. That's almost an ENFJ thing to do. But you said you're INFJ. That's absolutely an ENFJ thing to do.
Definitely INFJ.
INFJs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've seen my some of my videos, but I go too far into space and I never come back.
Yeah, that's definitely an INFJ thing to do.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. All this stuff makes a lot of sense for me.
I'm gonna have to ask you questions because I've got more questions for you, because you were an ENTJ and now you're an INFJ, and now then you're a dismissive kind of, but a fearful kind of. It kind of like goes back and forth. So I've got questions for you, but I'm not gonna like hammer you with them right now. Maybe some other time.
Mainly fearful.
I have questions for all you right now, but anyway. Oh, did I explain that fully?
I mean, you cover all bases for me.
Does that make sense to you? So how did you grow up?
Seemed happy with your response, your
Me?
description. So.
How did I grow up? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I want to know how you grew up.
Okay, so so for me, I was I mean, for me, it was like I just felt heavily criticized. Like here, I'll give you an example of when I moved out. When I moved out, like the world kind of shifted. So when I moved out, it was really weird because I was so like used to having like a critical feedback like all the time, like someone telling me I'm doing something wrong. I mean, to the extent where I couldn't get like something out of the fridge without being lectured about like my ethics and, you know, whether or not I care for anybody or anything like that. And that's there's legitimate examples of that. Like, I'm not exaggerating.
Wow.
So that's kind of what I was dealing with. So when I got
Is that mom or dad?
That's mom. I grew up with my mom. My stepdad was pretty relaxed, I don't really he didn't ever do anything that was I don't know, that really, he's more like a friend, I think. But when I moved out, it was really like I was actually paranoid. Like I thought that if I did anything wrong, like my mom would know somebody that lived in the area, and I lived really far away, like countries away. And I thought that she would know somebody from the area and would like call me and ask me why I'm, you know, doing this horrible stuff, and it would be something small. Yeah, right. Horrible stuff. It wasn't
countries away.
Huh?
Countries away.
Yeah, like because I lived in Italy for a while.
Okay, so you moved to Italy, and you were still afraid that your mom would know what you were doing in Italy?
No, she was in Italy, and I was with her, and then I moved back to the States.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
I thought that, yeah. So I thought that she would know somebody in the area, and would like call me and say like, "Oh, why did you do this? Like, this is so like messed up." And it would be something that's not messed up. You know what I mean? It would be something that's regular. But I was so paranoid that I would get a phone call, and when she would say that, like, it would be like the judgment hammer coming down. You know what I mean? Like it actually feels horrible. And the best description of this, I think, is kind of funny because one time I went to visit, and this is after I met Damon. So I went to visit, and then there was a conversation. There's something I did, and I was visiting, like, something I did, like, everyone thought I was just so horrible. Like, everyone was just, like, bashing on me and, like, all this. And so I'm thinking that I'm, like, a horrible person now. And I'm like...
You're not horrible.
And I'm like, thank you. And I'm like, oh, I didn't... hold on. Sorry. But it was just that, you know, I thought I was, like, really messed up or something like that. So I called Damon, and I was like, does this make any sense? Like, the fact that everyone thinks that I'm I did something wrong, and like people were giving me the silent treatment sort of, and he was like, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. And he like kind of brought me back. Like for a second, I thought I like lost touch with like myself. Like it was really weird. So, I mean, there's stuff I have to work out, and
were those people in your family that were making you feel that way?
Well, sort of like people I grew up with that were like family friends and family.
Okay, so it's kind of, but it was part of family. It wasn't like your friends outside of.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. And
Okay.
you know, I have like, I know what's wrong. Like I've figured it out, I think, as best as I could, and I have like I have a way to get through all that. So I have to figure out how to approach it. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how it was. And so,
Wow.
I definitely.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I definitely plan on restoring like the relationships, and I just have to figure out how to do it.
The relationship with your mom or with those people?
Well, the relationship with those people didn't really matter. It's mainly just my mom and my family in general, because I don't really talk to family. Like I don't really know what to say. I don't really know what to talk about. It's hard to find like a lot of common grounds, and then it's very weird for me. I don't really know how to think about it, so I have some stuff to figure out, but I do plan on fixing that. You had a question?
Do you live far from your mom right now, or do you guys still live in the same area?
No, we don't live in the same area.
So you live, how long have you lived like far away from your mom?
Probably like a year and a half, 2 years. It's when I really started doing YouTube again.
And how old are you?
I'm 18, almost 19.
19. Good for you. You guys you're so young to be getting into this stuff. I'm so impressed. Like that was way far. I didn't even start.
Let's be honest. You're like the youngest person here.
No, I'm not.
No?
Talking about
really?
Me.
No, I was talking to her.
Oh.
You're like a solid 23 to 24 years old. Definitely.
That makes more sense to me because I actually am the youngest person here.
Oh no.
So I'm like
Where did Damon go?
He's hiding because I have now.
Things got way too
confusing to me.
No. Because
when things get personal, I run.
Damon gets like this.
Everything. Stop it.
You know what's really funny? When I start talking, Damon like always heads out like a turtle because like the tide starts coming in of all my feelings, and then he's like, I don't want to touch that. He's like,
it's true.
Like I just started to go like this, like the water starts to go higher and higher. He's like, I'm out.
And you're like, no, you need to give me validation. And he's like, no. And then you guys just go back and forth. You guys have that relationship that I was talking about. Aww.
All right. So one thing I want to say is that while you guys were chatting it up, I actually went and analyzed both types. When you first gave the description of fearful avoidant, I would say that I was kind of 50-50. I could be fearful. But as you continue to progress and describe it, I dropped back to dismissive. That would be my primary. And there's a few things I copied, pasted, and I highlighted as you guys did this. And here's some of the things that really stand out, and I'll give a little backstory for people who are watching as well. It says dismissives are rarely so open about declaring themselves. They need to think highly of themselves and will tell you they value their self-sufficiency and independence. Needing others is weak. Feelings of attachment are strings that hold you down. Empathy and sympathy are for lesser creatures. This is 100% true with my standard way of thinking. As I've gotten older and more experienced in personal development, I realize this isn't healthy, so I've tried to move away from feeling this way. But at the core, this is truly what I do feel. And anybody who knows me, or at least in any kind of intimacy, fashion, or form, knows that I tend to have this I don't want to need you mentality. Mm-hmm. And so I have no desire for it, nor do I have a desire for a relationship. In fact, the only desire I have for a relationship in general is that it is a tool for self-development.
And that sounds like an ENTJ thing too, a little bit.
Yeah, it is. That's part of the personality as well, but it's a tool for self-development. And whether there's feelings or not feelings, to me, those are irrelevant. I don't really have this, like you described, this longing, passion for it. There are memories I do wish to create in my life, and I am an SX as far as Enneagram goes. So I do like one-on-one conversations. But as far as this relationship aspect, I've been single my whole adult life, and I've been okay with it. You know, there's not really been this desire to do the relationship game for me. Whereas I know a lot of people, on the other hand, they tend to put themselves in relationships that they don't even think are really fully beneficial because they feel they need it, or at some core level. I've never done this. And now I knew that I justified the actions that I've taken as in, you know, that no one meets a standard. No one's good enough. Again, this dismissive, I don't feel people are good enough. And so I kind of ruled people out. But again, we look at this as an unhealthy thing. And it's not because, and this is what brings me to the next point here is that, yeah, so it says they distance themselves by identifying or using a real relationship and in the past. And it says the memory of this idealized previous partner is used as a weapon. This is true for me. I still think about my very first girlfriend I dated back when I was 16 years old. And she has been the metric and standard I have held my entire adult life, and no one has met it. So it says here, of a ruler and its commands, no one could measure up to the one that got away. And I always called her the one that got away. And it was kind of a tool for me to go, you know what, you don't fit up, you're gone. And so
Oh, yeah.
kind of very, what was that?
I said, oh yeah, it's a kind of a scapegoat.
Yeah, it is, and it's not justified. So again, like I said, I'm trying to work on the perspective that relationships are more than just a tool for development, but it's a lot of work. Here's another thing.
You have it kind of difficult because you're an ENTJ, and then if you're dismissive on top, ENTJs are already the one-man armies, you know, a lot of the time. Like, they could do it themselves. They would rather be able to delegate to other people and have like a little army under their control. That's, you know, but if they have to do it themselves, whatever, they're going to do it. And also, an ENTJ is fantastic at rationalizing things and thinking of a relationship as a tool if you're in that place. I don't think all ENTJs are like that, but if that's kind of where you are, then I think that you can tell yourself that you see it that way. And if you're looking at it as a tool, then you don't really need that tool right now, right? You can work on that later. You can work on that later. So if you don't have that internal drive for connection, it's not something that's going to be a natural priority for you, I don't think, you know, if you don't see the need for that tool right now.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I look at this and I'm like, yeah, that's definitely, I resonate a lot more with that than the fearful, because as you guys were talking, I went in here and did my ENTJ thing, which I'll show you real quick just for your own amusement. But I went in here and I highlighted the sections.
Oh, wow. How'd you do that?
Oh, I
That's
just
cool.
pasted it to a Word document. Sections, the things that really stood out to me. So, yeah, so you guys can see what I kind of was going through when you guys were talking a little bit of Trey's story, and I wanted to make sure that I was like, okay, well, let's do a little bit of exploration here, and we can see what's going on. So there's a few points I do want to bring up for people who may be dismissive as well, and that way hopefully they can maybe not feel so, you know, like themselves an alien, like I guess I did. But it says they have poor access to early emotional memories, having built a defensive shield of self-esteem and self-sufficiency that requires negative memories to be suppressed. I've been known my entire life for having a stellar memory, but I can't remember anything before 12 years old. It's erased. And so it's like there's little flashes of things, but as far as being a little kid, I have like no memory. And so I feel younger than I actually am because I don't feel like I've lived.
Okay, hang on. So what happened when you were 12?
Well, that's approximate. I don't know exactly. But did you have any major life-changing events in your childhood around that time? Yeah, there's a lot of them, but and that's a whole side story. But when we end the live call, I'll be happy to share that with you. It's just I don't want to keep our audience with this very drastic story. So, but yeah, there was a lot of things that happened around that period. So,
I wasn't even done with Trey either because I have more things to say about yours, and I actually have to go pretty soon because I didn't feed my dog before I started this. So, but I could always come back and talk about it again anytime.
Yeah, there's so much to cover. So I know
there's like tons. I feel like, yeah.
There's too much to cover. So, you know, like I said, I want to make sure I cover this up, but I will end where I was. If Daniel and Trey want to contribute anything, or if you have anything else to say, I will talk about this more in the future. So
I feel like I've said plenty. So
Daniel,
please,
Trey.
Not enough time. That's my only comment.
Okay, Trey.
Oh man, I wanted more time to come up with something.
Okay.
I've got tons of things I would like to say. I would like to grill all of you.
Trey counted on Daniel going, it was huge. And,
Yeah, no, I was waiting for Daniel to talk so that I could zone out.
And then Trey uses that opportunity to leverage his metaphorical thinking. So right when Daniel gets into his nice little rant about whatever it may be, Trey has all his thoughts are completed. Whereas I just talk out of my ass. I do that quite a bit. So I don't really need that processing time as long as I'm doing something else in the back end, like I wanted to share this with you guys. So how much time do you got left? And I want to make sure we maximize that.
I just have to feed her. I don't have to like run out the door, but I do feel bad is all.
Oh yeah.
So, I could hang for a few more. I have a question for you too. Is there a way to put like, I think on Google, on YouTube, if I don't know how they stream, but you can put the little chat box and people can ask questions. Can you do that on this?
Yeah, people are asking questions right now as we speak.
Oh, right.
There's been
Really?
a chat the whole time. They're on YouTube, so you have to go to the YouTube video and click the pop out for the chat.
Oh, that's a lot of
Pause
things
the
for me to
video,
do at once. I might get a little bit distracted. Oh, that's cool. Okay.
I even get distracted at the chat. Sometimes I have to minimize it because it is distracting. Somebody will say
something
really ridiculous, and I have to close it out because I'm like, I can't focus on what I
Oh yeah. Last time when I was hosting the call, like I didn't have Damon to fall back on, so people I had the chat going, and I was trying to finish my thought, and I see like something that just goes way that way, and I was like, no, wait, hold on. So you have to like.
You're chasing it. You're like.
Yeah, it's so difficult, and then you're like stuttering because you're like you're supposed to be leading it.
Yeah, that would be really hard for me.
It's not easy.
Okay, so we have two options. We can end this now, and we can obviously do a part 2, or you can just shut off your camera and mic, do what you need to do with your dog, and hop back. So you let me know what you'd like to do.
Oh well, I would like to do a part 2 or something. I mean, this is really fun. But. I mean, if you have a few more minutes, was there anything else you wanted to go over, or was that a no?
Oh, we can definitely cover more if you have questions for us.
Yeah, I've got tons of questions for you, but it would take way too much time because you guys all just gave me little nuggets. Like you all started stories. All 3 of you started stories.
I didn't mind. I was like, this is me. All right, continue.
I know. Yeah, I didn't
get. I mean, FP.
Well, I don't know if this is like if it was just supposed to be like an let's talk about information. I always find it way more interesting to hear about people's actual stories when it relates to any of this. So, but I'm more likely if somebody says something interesting, then I just want to follow that and what's that?
I have this extreme urge to be asked questions. It's like always something, especially from ENTPs.
You want to be asked questions?
It's like one of my things. I love being asked questions. There's just so much to tell.
I did ask you questions.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I said, were you in a lot of relationships? And I was right. And then you said, but no, that I turned 20 and then I wasn't. And now I've been solo for a while.
Solo, yeah.
Solo dolo.
Solo.
Yep. So when was your first girlfriend? Here's my question for you. When was your first girlfriend?
18. Next question.
18? So you said that you were in relationships your whole life and then you were single. So 18 is your first. So you were. Was it the same? Was it the same relationship from 18 to 20 or different?
No, I was in 4 serious relationships between 18 and 22.
At 18 and 22. So like a girl a year.
If you wanted to average it out, sure.
I'm just kidding. So first girlfriend, okay, that's interesting. And then now you're just like on a hiatus.
Kind of. I'm testing the waters right now, but it's been testing this very area actually, ironically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you 24 now?
Yeah, I'm 24.
Okay, so you just have did you just say, okay, no girlfriend? Like I've had no entrance. You kind of became like Damon, like nope, I don't even need it.
Yeah, I kind of became like soulless and just trying to figure out myself and literally just focus because I was all about women, and then I just like augmented myself to just like my purpose, my what I want to do in life, and then I mean obviously I see people every now and then, but it wouldn't be like. You'd have to really be something important for me to consider, No,
I think that's great. I mean, all of you guys have said very similar things, which is that, okay, I have come to this place in my life. I'm like looking inward. I just always love hearing things like that because not everybody does these things. Like I have
Well,
tried to like.
the thing that I'm not telling you is that I had a huge trigger that triggered me to a totally different direction. It was ironically, I owe some of my self-analysis and my personal growth to a girl that I was with. The first girl I ever loved actually broke me so hard. I just went analytical and never went back, and like personal growth driven. And so I owe her a lot because now I'm just.
She broke you? You mean like she just like destroyed your heart?
Like, you know how Eckhart Tolle talks about how he like broke one day and like for like 5 years he just sat on a park bench and just chilled. Do you know that story?
That was you?
That was me, but like I broke and then like I just kind of, I went all personal growth driven. Yeah.
So that was that the first girlfriend? She was also the first girl you loved, or no?
No, she wasn't the first girl. No.
Okay.
He was like the third girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Don't forget about the 578th girl.
Yeah, but like since that girl, there was like so many more, but they don't count as relationships.
Wait.
Hold on. She was admirably
Wait
significant.
a second. Since what girl there were so many more?
Since that girl that I my first love, and then that breaking point, I went like on like a killing spree of like seeing women. Like I went like
the 4 girlfriends in 4 years. Those were just the girlfriends, but then there were other women.
like there's like all right, so there's like
women.
Yeah, I'm just talking about relationships.
Women.
Is that psychological distancing?
Did all that also happen within the 4 years?
Yeah, like I can't. I don't want to give away my number, but like that, like the girls, the long-term relationships are a small portion of my intimate time with everybody that I've ever been with. Like,
so wait,
it's probably
why did you have your first girlfriend at 18? Wait, was that first girlfriend or first girl you dated at all?
First girl I dated.
So that was it, like it's a first kiss and everything like that?
Yeah, first everything, yeah.
So, but before that, before you were 18 years old, so what happened at 18 that you were like, I'm free? Like, were you like, what?
Up until 18, I was actually in a very, very toxic, high-stress, disorienting environment, and then I got kicked out, which was a godsend. And then I was able to actually mature into where I was supposed to be.
Huh.
So.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I have so many more questions.
Yeah. But yeah,
okay, now all 3 of you have done. You guys have all been like, here's a little dangle. Now I've got like a billion more. Like, you've all said little words, little things that I'm like, don't you get away. And now, okay, so I've got to. Right. I want to ask all of you, but I just, like you said, I don't want to like take this off on the wrong path and everything. So, and plus I don't want to ask you too personal questions and then, right here. I'll have to write them down and then you can tell me if I can ask you questions or not.
I'm an open book, so I mean, that's it.
Okay.
All right, so any questions for Trey?
Me?
Yeah, you got a question for Trey or a couple?
I do, but I'm not going to ask him right now because it'll take far too long. My dog will starve to death.
Okay.
But I will write them down. After I feed her, I'll write down everything that I want to ask. And then if they're okay with me asking them, then I can ask them next time.
Perfect. So guys, as the viewers watching this video, thank you for joining us. So there probably will be a part 2 in the near future. I don't know the date and time yet, obviously. We could plan this out, but there will be a part 2. And it'll probably So Melicious becomes malicious with MBTV staff. Something along those lines. We'll figure it out. But she's going to get pretty personal. So Daniel will love every moment of this.
I will.
And I will gladly put myself and subjugate myself to interrogation.
Yes. I love being interrogated.
But it will make sure you bring your pistol to unload while you do it.
Oh, I get.
Yeah.
I might have to do a one-on-one though when I don't know, because like, yeah.
All right, so we might do one-on-ones then. We might have 3 different parts. I'll be the last one. And then the rest of you guys we can obviously get this going. But thank you so much for viewing. And if you have any questions, like I said, post them in the chat or go on Slack, and obviously you guys can continue the conversation there. And we will bring her back on. And thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure. And everyone else, thank you so much.